So joining us now to talk about biotech M&A and whether to expect in 2024 more of it, Wedbush Securities' Laura Chico. Laura, I'm going to start right there because what's so incredible about both of these deals today is the premiums attached to them with these price tags. Is this going to continue into 2024 as some of these big biotech companies and pharma companies that are sitting on a lot of cash look to find growth?
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's from the buyer side. We have a lot of cash to deploy and we have pipeline gaps to fill. And from the target side, we have a number of assets getting more mature, but valuations are still attractive. You mentioned the premiums, but the large and mid cap biotech space is still only trading at about a 6 to 7 times multiple to revenue. So I think that both sides of this story can work in 24. We have seen about 5 deals, as you mentioned, in December already. That's definitely higher than the average. We typically see about 2 to 3 deals in the December-January timeframe. But I do think this continues in 24.
I mean, we've been having a conversation about the fact that we're starting to see across industries and across sectors a pickup finally in M&A activity after a dearth of it, at least earlier in the year. Has that been the case in this sector too, or has it been more robust?
No, absolutely. It's picked up here in the second half for biotech, and we've done about $118 billion in total deals. So far, we've tracked about 21 M&A announcements this year, and that's considerably higher than even just last year when we did about 14 deals and about $60 billion worth of transactions. So the pace is definitely accelerating here.
What are names in your coverage universe that could be takeover targets?
Yeah, I think we're looking at companies that have more de-risked assets that have gotten through a number of clinical trials or things that are starting to mature. And I think within that wheelhouse, we're talking about names like Viridian Therapeutics, VRDN. It's $1 billion company focused on thyroid eye disease. Edgewise Therapeutics, another one, EWTX, is a smaller cap name and a little earlier stage, but a focus in both muscular dystrophy and cardiac disorders.
I'm looking at your notes here, and you talk about the fact that there have already been 52 FDA approvals. How does that compare to years past, and how crucial is that approval pipeline to all of this deal-making continuing?
It's definitely an important driver, and I think the number has actually moved up to 55 now for the year. And I think that's second only to a couple of years ago when we had 59. So FDA remains incredibly productive, and I think that still bodes well for the future here. We have a PDUFA calendar of regulatory decisions that are already pretty filling up for 2024 as well.
We're also going into an election year. How much is that going to factor into investor sentiment? You can say deal-making activity, but even more broadly than that, investor sentiment in the sector, given the fact that we know, politically speaking, drug prices and other dynamics within healthcare tend to come under the microscope.
Yeah, that's a tricky one to answer here. And I think we've seen a little bit of the kind of political blowback this year as the Inflation Reduction Act has started to kind of impact things, and we've gotten our first slate of drugs that are ready for negotiations. But, I think heading into the election year, still optimistic here because we do have a number of factors. Like you mentioned, the FDA remains productive here. We have attractive valuations and a number of companies move along. And I think we have a good catalyst lineup. So a number of data points that should be reading out. So net, I still think it's a positive year for biotech.